The radiation or the frequencies potentially prolong the illness.
When you air this portion of the podcast, can you just blur my face? Because I don't want to sit next to a guy who's telling people that 5G is creating COVID-19.
You are now watching the Kris LaBelle Show.
All right, welcome to the 16th episode for Whom LaBelle Tolls. I'm your host, Kris LaBelle. Make sure that you subscribe, like, share, comment. Remember, every little bit you do supports the show. Supporting the show supports myself and LK Visuals. In doing so, that keeps our small business afloat. Now, Monday, that was crazy. September 20th, not only did Alberta pass the passports, but we also had our federal election. Justin Trudeau is now our prime minister for another 4 years, which means I'm going to find a lawyer in the United States to get me extradited back into the United States once again, like I was back in 2014, living in Los Angeles, and I want to do that again. I am a Canadian, true-blooded Canadian, and I love Canada, but the next 4 years under this guy's regime, I don't know how I feel about that. I worry for my son. I worry for everyone's families. It's going to be an interesting time. I think that these passports have been very intriguing. It's a different. I've been navigating pretty interestingly over the last 2 years, trying to avoid masks and trying to, navigate the restrictions. But these passports are legit. Eventually, there's going to be a QR code, and I think that's going to be a big deal. I'm concerned, but I'm also optimistic. Again, moving forward, my whole game plan and strategy is no longer to worry about this civil war that's brewing or potentially like to create some sort of anarchy or rebellion. Ultimately like posting content and, reposting stories and news that's been on air, trying to incite more unity in regards to the opposition. I feel the key is to create a solution. I think we need to unify, vaxxed or non-vaxxed, who gives a shit? I think, again, ultimately, we're in the same boat, we're rowing in the same direction, and I think we need to find a solution. And I know a lot of you that are tuned into the show just wait to hear the crazy shit that I have to say. And today, I have an amazing guest. I have a professional in the studio who's coming up in a few minutes. He's been a radio host, a successful, well-known, nationally recognized public figure, and he's working with one of the best radio stations in Canada, Calgary's #1 station, CJ92. And in our studio today, we're going to get the influence and perspective from a public figure, from someone that actually has a brand, someone that has serious influence, someone that speaks to Calgary on a daily basis, 5 days a week. This man has done an incredible job at replacing one of the greatest broadcasters in the history of Canada, Hall of Famer Jerry Forbes. And in our studio today, we have a very good friend of mine, and a man that has gone above and beyond for my son and I through CJ92 and provided us some opportunities that we didn't have due to the restrictions and due to the struggle being an artist. And today on our show, I'm proud to present a professional broadcaster, Jesse Modz from CJ92. This guy just looks over. I'm so excited.
We are so close to each other.
Yeah, not even close enough technically. Like I think you might need to come in 1 inch.
Jesus Christ.
There we go.
Honest to God, I don't think I would have done this if I knew we were side by side.
Yeah, but you got free product placement. You showed up and you just started putting Toolshed beer down, and that's really good advertising. That's amazing. What would that cost for CJ if I put 4 beers down in front of our interview if I was on CJ?
$1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah, no less than that. Yeah, it would cost a lot. No, I actually have no idea. People always ask me sales questions on CJ, like how much for this and how much for that. And if you knew what I did at CJ, I literally walk in, I do the show, and I go home. I know nothing about anything other than what I do. So
you sit down, script.
I got friends, even Toolshed, they're like, oh, how much does it cost for this? How much does it cost for that? I couldn't even give you a ballpark number. Like I could say $100 or 10 grand and have no idea where I was.
If you're in business, you did really well. You got free. That's
there
what
you go.
Did.
Well, I appreciate that.
You set that up and you got free for a great local brand. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's dope. What happened to your phone? You told me you ran over your phone?
Yeah, I was at a golf tournament and had a couple too many drinks and dropped my phone, and then the cart went and smashed it.
Smashed your phone?
Yeah.
How much did it to fix?
So I took it to one of those iPhone repair places, and to fix the screen was $600, and the phone's $1,000. So I just said,
Do you ever pull a LaBelle and like use your influence? Like my friend, I swear to God, I'll do 4 Facebook posts, 2 Instagram posts, and no. You just like I'll pay this damage.
I couldn't imagine walking into a place. I know you have no shame, and just being like, "Do you know who I am?" Because the chances are that they have no idea who.
My Instagram's ready. My Instagram's always ready. Like, do you know who I am? I have 9,700 followers. Man, that's
not even enough for the swipe up in the stories yet.
I know, I'm not even there yet. I've been sitting at 9,700 for 2 years. Do our intro now, because there was some stuff there we can go to.
Okay.
So, working with a professional. This is it.
It's intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. It's like playing pickup hockey with Sidney Crosby right now.
Yes.
Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say, this is a great moment. I have Jesse Modz in our studio right now from CJ92, the only station that I've been listening to since I moved to Calgary back in 2005 when Jerry Forbes used to be the man, not only here in Calgary, but he was well recognized across the country. And you, my friend, are the man who replaced Jerry Forbes, the living icon, the Hall of Fame broadcaster, Jesse Modz.
Yes, I don't want to take full credit for that because I do the show with JD. It's both of our show.
Oh yeah, sorry JD. Like you're really important too. Like you're also on the bus when the bus goes by. Your cartoon character face, your caricature is on the bus as well. Also, JD was previously Jerry's partner on CJ92, his co-host.
It's funny because, coming to Calgary and, taking over the show for Jerry and doing the show with Jerry for a year, I can't believe I've almost been here for 5 years now.
Wow.
And time goes by, so quickly, and it's been that long, and people still talk about, taking over for Jerry. And he had such a big impact on the city that I think 25 years from now, 30 years from now, they'll be like, hey, what was it like taking over for Jerry? I'm like, guys, that was 30 years ago. But no, it's awesome, man. And even just to be in when you say like, oh, this is Jesse Modz taking over for Jerry, having that guy's name associated with me is so awesome.
Nice. Well, he was not just like, man, his comedy, his satire, his personality, just his voice in the radio. All right, guys, Jerry Forbes here. And he would say the most outlandish things. And obviously it's perfect timing, maybe perhaps for his retirement. We spoke before, him and I.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't even think I'd fucking be around anymore talking the shit that I talk, the prank phone calls and whatnot. But he was a trendsetter. He was ahead of the time. He really had such a great show. And I remember when you got the job, I was jealous. I was like, I thought for sure, I was in the prime of my comedy career. I'm like, people know me in Calgary. I should be, I want to be Jerry's son. And then you came on board and then I started to listen. It wasn't even like a slow build up. I just was like, all right, sounds masculine. All right, he's funny. Oh, fuck, look, he's jacked. Fucking cool looking guy. Fuck, I guess the job's his now. It's him and JD now. And I remember like slowly transitioning. And then the moment I started to listen, I was like, fuck, these guys got chemistry. And I haven't stopped listening. So if it's been 5 years, I know that I've been listening to CJ92 consistently for 5 years. I've messaged you after songs. I'm like, dude, I love that song. I've actually hit you up. Yo, that was a good commercial. I'm like, yo, that was funny. Yo, lay off JD. You're killing him today.
Well, it's funny, man, because like radio, it's so different now, like than even when Jerry was on, where, when Jerry was doing all the crazy shit, like, you could still do it within, reason, but the way the world's going, I know, things last forever now. Things online last forever. You can get canceled quicker than you started.
What are you saying? You brought up the guy from Jeopardy.
Oh, I was just saying, like, I always say no to doing these podcasts because I'm like, you get in these comfortable settings. We got beers here. We're going to crack them. And then next thing you know, you ask me a question and I answer it. And then 10 years later, they're like, oh, Jesse, why don't you come host the show? Yeah. And then like, oh, what did you say on the Kris LaBelle podcast back in 2021?
Yeah. So what do you think of Justin Trudeau? Just kidding. How did you vote yesterday? In fact, what a crazy freaking week, right? Monday, not only did they establish the passports, but then they also had the voting on the same day. And as a father of 2, right? You're only 32 years old. You're in the infancy stages of your growth and development in radio, but you are booming. You're doing well. You're also now an owner of Toolshed Brewery. So man, talk about 32 years old, being top 40 under 40 in the Avenue magazine for Calgary. Unlike most of the people that paid to be there, you probably will earn your spot on Avenue Magazine's Top 40 Under 40. How do you go from small town Ontario, end up in Calgary, Alberta, which is a much bigger city than where you're from, take over one of the legends in the radio industry of Canada, and in 5 years, take ownership in a brewery? Like, tell us about your life, bro.
You know what? Where do you want to start? Like,
Let's start off with when you got the call that there's a potential in Calgary. How did you receive that call? How did you know that CJ was looking?
So the radio world is so small, and when I was growing up as a kid, the reason why I wanted to get into radio was the goaltender on my hockey team. Both of his parents were famous radio DJs in Toronto, Paul and Carol Mott. They did talk radio. And I used to just see them at the games. They'd come with their logo on their jackets, and everybody in the stands would be like, oh my God, there's Paul and Carol. What do they go talk to them? And I always thought that was so interesting that somebody could do a job where they love to go to work and people recognize what they do for work. And I was like, when I was a kid, I'm talking real little, I was like, that could be neat. And then, over the years, I played hockey with their son Garrett for a long time. And we'd go to tournaments and they'd bring their mobile broadcasting recording unit to the tournaments. They'd do the show from the parking lot. And we'd have a big game, and I would find myself more interested in what they were doing on the radio than the game I was preparing for. So that was my first love for radio. And then I remember getting into it, and it's one of those things where you apply for a job, but you're one of 300 people every job that you apply for. And I was like, fuck, this is so hard to do. I don't know if I can be that one guy every time. So how am I going to do that? And I just busted my ass forever. And that's how I got this opportunity in Calgary. I was working at a radio station just outside of Toronto called 97.7 Hits FM, afternoon show all by myself. And just being me, I talk about everything. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You could ask me what's something people don't know about you? And there's a good chance everybody knows everything about me, because I don't hide anything, whether it's something going on in my personal life, whether it's a view on something, whether it's
hanging out with Bret the Hitman Hart on a regular basis.
There you go.
Right?
I don't hide anything. So I think that was part of the charm of me coming out here to replace a guy like Jerry with JD was, I just bring myself, and I have a pretty interesting life. I do a lot of cool things. I try to be involved in a lot of cool things. And I think that was probably hey, let's see what this guy's up to.
Dude, you got my son a bed this year, right? I'm not even kidding. So Jesse and I are on the phone, and we had the incredible opportunity to rub shoulders and become friends with Bret the Hitman Hart. We've been invited to his house. We're part of a table hockey league. I was last place 2 years in a row.
Yeah, you're shit. You're absolutely awful.
Do you think it's because am I too short? I can't see over the glass. When I play, I can't, there's glass, I can't see over the glass, because you have to, so I have to look through the glass and play, and then I just feel like my arms are too short. And I saw Jesse play, and I heard him say, and I didn't really know Jesse well yet, and I just said, okay, that's my pony. I could beat that guy. And I watched him play, and I'm like, okay, I got this. This guy trounced me I'm 0-6 against Jesse in table hockey. Bret the Hitman Hart, by the way, phenomenal at table hockey. And then as we progress, man, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm a little thirsty.
Man, that's good sound right there. So wait, you can't drink alone. I'm going to grab something.
Look at your body. I didn't think you drank at all.
Yeah, well, I drink a lot of water and green tea, and sometimes I'll drink a kale smoothie with some collagen in it.
You're going to want a Toolshed People Skills.
Oh, you know what? That's actually Graham, the owner. The other owner is, I've also talked to him about that. Guys, I know, no sugar, no flour, no dairy. I haven't drank in I don't know, the longest time, especially since my hospitalization with diverticulitis. But if I am going to drink, I'm drinking local.
Cheers,
Bam!
man.
And I'm drinking with Jesse
man.
Modz from CJ92. Cheers, brother.
I'm impressed that you're having a beer, because I know you're all about your health right now. It's funny. I go in stages of health, and I'm like, fuck, I'm up and I'm down. I'm in the gym and I'm feeling great. Or right this second, I haven't been in the gym in 2 weeks. And I got a text message from my girlfriend who was running a 10K this morning.
Wow.
And I was sitting in the Subway parking lot eating caramel pecan turtle cookies as I read, hey, I'm 7 kilometers through my 10K race. I was like, what a piece of shit I am.
She text while running? Or while you're eating fucking snacks in your car?
Exactly. And now I'm sitting here sweating my ass off in your studio wearing a sweater because I feel like a fluffy asshole. But eventually I'll get myself back on the train. But beers do not help. I just got involved with Toolshed, and
how'd that come about?
Drinking beers all the time.
And you met Graham. Did you not meet Graham? Or were you and Graham friends before tape? Because Graham also, the other owner of Toolshed, came and played table hockey as well. Great guy, barbecuing, public speaker. This guy's fucking pretty cool. Go visit him at Toolshed down in the Northeast, just off of 32nd Northeast by in Marble area in that park. Beautiful place, beautiful brewery. Did you know him prior, or did you meet him there?
So I met Graham at my first week at CJ actually.
Oh wow!
He brought in a bunch of beers. It was like a welcome to Calgary type thing.
Nice.
And we had a couple of beers and we struck up a cool friendship. And our friendship actually started with Graham trying to spite JD, because Graham and JD are very good friends as well. And JD was going through this phase years ago where he didn't drink beer, he only drank whiskey. So when I
Not
first
a bad phase to be in.
So when I first came to Calgary, Graham's like, "Hey man, like you're gonna be our first like Toolshed sponsored athlete, and we're gonna give you a keg anytime you want one." And he did that to be like, "Hey, screw you, JD, you're drinking whiskey. I'm gonna give this guy some free beer." So it just became like, "Hey, like I got a kegerator in my basement. I built this sweet bar." And
You got a great bar in your basement.
And Graham just like fills up my bar with beer all the time. And then, you know, as like things started to progress over the years, I just wanted to be involved in a Alberta-based company. That was like the main goal was, you know, I'm an Ontario kid. I've lived in Calgary for 5 years. I always say like, oh, I'm a new Calgarian, but I've been here for 5 years almost. And
It's a long time.
I wanted to like really invest into the community, and you know, I love beer and I love barbecue. And
You do.
These guys are all about local. They're all about supporting local. Graham goes on speaking tours, you know, talking about like the local ingredients that they put in their beer, and that spoke to me. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to be a real Calgarian, I want to invest into the city and
Smart.
into a small business, and that's kind of the gist. Plus, I love the product. I love Graham. I love everything about Toolshed. Thank you for the placement.
Yeah, just in case anybody's got OCD that's watching the show right now, and we're like, God, somebody fix it, right? Because I have OCD and I noticed it. Now I noticed there's rings on the table, and I'm having a complete ADHD moment. Forgot to take my Adderall today, right in the middle of his story, telling us his whole origin about how we got into tool shit. I'm like, yeah! So,
I could tell you haven't taken your pills because we're all over the place. We haven't even dived into anything, but we've talked a little bit about everything.
I was like, passports, new election, suddenly beer. He cracks one open. Ultimately, you know, who wants to discuss the pink elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to discuss it. But I mean, let's be honest, man. You're a father. You have 2 children. You have a beautiful wife. You have a nice home. You got a great job. You're in a position.
Jesus, this is my Tinder profile if I was single.
Hey, well, keep this up. You might be. What are you doing on LaBelle's show talking crazy? So obviously the elections were on Monday. Today's a Wednesday. It was Monday. I don't know dates. The 20th. So it's the 22nd today. Tomorrow's the 23rd. Is that right? It's
and then the day after that is the 24th. And then the 20th. What a great podcast.
Fuck.
What great content we have.
Hey, listen, I'm full of content. It reminds me of like, it's funny that you hit me up on math because I got an email from Dominic, my son's teacher, to say Dominic is struggling in math. He doesn't have the fundamentals down. I said that if he went online and started to do some of my workshops, he could improve his math skills. So, and she said, Dominic said there's no technology in your home and you guys don't have access to computers or you don't have television. And I replied back, I'm like, yeah, we don't. We don't believe in that. We believe in being in the community. We believe in being out. I mean, he's in school 7 hours a day. You have more than enough time to educate my son in math. On top of it, we don't really believe in technology. 1 cell phone per household is more than enough. He has no PlayStation. And I retorted like immediately. Like, you know, I was just like, it doesn't matter what my son has for technology. What matters what he does in the 7 hours at your school, and he behaves himself with integrity and whatnot, and considering the circumstances. So be it. So anyhow, tangent on math, that's what happened. Dominic, good for you, bro. Way to stick it to the man. So
once again, all over the fucking
all
place.
over the place, yeah. 3 sips into people skills, and I'm suddenly just lost my whole placing of the show. But voting Monday, passports Monday. As a father in a position where you are now a public figure, you have to like be mindful of the things you say.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like the guy from Jeopardy that got himself fucking in a podcast 10 years ago. Who knows what the hell he said?
Yeah.
But he got like, if you were that's the dreamiest job in the world. Like if you become the next Alex Trebek, really, you guys are living a parallel lifestyle. So we have to ensure that we don't recreate the same scenario 10 years later. So tell me, how does these restrictions, passports, how does this voting, the liberals, like, is this affect you in any way? Like, does it affect your job? Does it affect your freedom of speech?
I'll tell you that nothing good comes from these conversations. That's the one thing I've learned on the radio is, you know, I can speak about like, you know, I can be passionate about a certain subject, whether it's like something fun, like happening with friends. Like I would never do blank with a buddy, and people like can pick a side and they'll be like, oh, I can't believe Jesse's taking that side on that.
Yeah.
And it's fun banter. You go back and forth. I find with the vaccine, like you bring it up, if you're vaxxed or not vaxxed, like you're just going to cause a fight.
100%.
You talk about the election, you're just going to cause a fight.
100%.
So that's not really interesting for me to go into because the comments on your YouTube videos can be like, what the fuck? He's vax, anti-vax, whatever it might be. But what I do find is like the effect on the kids is crazy. Like
100%.
I got a 4-year-old Max, I got an 8-year-old Nixon. And like my youngest son, the biggest scare for me is he's growing up thinking that masks are normal. He's growing up thinking that if you go to a restaurant, you need a mask. He's growing up thinking that if you go to school, you have to wear a mask. He doesn't know what his friends look like. They wear masks. It's crazy. He's in kindergarten. And that really upsets me because I want them to just be kids. And I want them to go through life just being kids, worrying about who their friends are. Are they going to have a girlfriend and when they're 9 years old? Are they going to play sports? Like my kids couldn't play sports the last little while, like every other kid in the province.
How did that affect them, not being able to participate in school sport, not to be able to see each other's faces, engage expression? Have you noticed any change in their personalities now that we're going on our second year of like wearing masks in school?
You know what? Absolutely. My youngest, not so much, the 4-year-old, because like I said, this is what he knows. Like this is to him, this is normal. My oldest son, I actually blogged about this not too long ago. He had like a very rough time. And I never knew how much mental health affected children until I started talking with my oldest son about what's going on. And he used to be in tears all the time talking about not being able to see his friends. Do my friends hate me? Why don't they come over anymore? Why don't we have sleepovers? Why don't I get to go see my pals? This is when they were being homeschooled. And, you know, we couldn't put him in baseball. We couldn't put him in all these things that he wanted to do. And I could see it destroying him. I could see it in his mood. I could see it in his energy. And it really sucked to watch him go through that. And he's getting better now. And it's just such a shit thing for everybody. I feel bad even complaining about it because everybody has got something going on.
You know what? I think advocating for your children and children around the world, and I'm not just saying children, man, I'm thinking about poor babies and their development moments that every face they look at is covered, right? There's plexiglass, there's rules and limitations. These children are not getting the same type of affection. It takes a community, it takes a village to raise a child. And they're not getting that nurturing from everybody in the community. Like, 5 years ago, a baby comes into a coffee shop, the whole coffee shop's making faces and smiling and loving. Babies come into a coffee shop now, they're replaced by the Chihuahua because more people show the Chihuahua love than a fucking newborn baby. Mm-hmm. We move forward to where you have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. Well, the 4-year-old right now is still kind of like learning, okay, I guess this is life now. Well, it's an easy condition for them to accept because they don't know anything else. Your other son, who is now 9, is in a position where he's like, man, I don't remember wearing these. And 2 years ago, I remember having fun and touching and hugging, and now I have to unlearn social skills. And my biggest thing as a parent as well is not so much about adults, economics, and business and our personal freedoms. Yeah. No one ever talks about the mental health for youth and let's say from 3 or 4 to about 15, 16, no one talks about the mental health of youth, that what this has done to them and how this has affected their lifestyles and what it must be like to constantly mask up and go into school, like the fears and the trauma and the insecurities they must have and the unknowing. So as a parent that's, in a position where he's very much involved with his children, how do you see this progressing? Like, what change do you think could be made?
Oh, well, that's such a loaded question, but what I did, and I don't think this is the right thing to do, but I overcompensated. So we did so many vacations with the kids. We took them everywhere you could imagine. We went to Vancouver, Canmore, Banff. We tried to do something like every weekend. That's a little extravagant. And to be honest, it's hard on like the bank account to do that. We get them, I got them the new Xbox. I got all this stuff. And I feel terrible because like we are spoiling them at the end of the day. But to me, it's like we've taken so much away from these kids. I'd rather see them happy, even if it's like hey, here's a new Xbox.
Materialistic.
And that's so shitty because we were never like that. And
no one had money for that shit.
Yeah. And now it's just like, okay, now they're smiling. We're going away. We're doing shit. Like, I know you're a big hiker. We take the kids on a lot of hikes. And I feel like we've been like better parents throughout the pandemic.
Hands down.
Because we're trying to make our kids happy. And that's cool. Like, I've connected with my kids more than I ever had before, especially when they were homeschooled. Because like I'm home at 10:30 in the morning. So I get to just like chill with them all day. And that was awesome. But as for what's going to happen going forward, I wish anybody knew. Because I don't think anybody knows what's going on right now.
No. I feel like the inconsistencies and like, there's so much inconsistency. We spoke earlier about 10 o'clock, things have to shut down, but it's like how does this pandemic know how to tell time? Do you know what I mean? Like, you wear a mask at this age, but this age is okay. We're pretty sure we're the same biology. And you and I, being public figures and being people that are known in Calgary, known beyond Calgary, sometimes I feel dutiful in regards to like, man, I'm using my platform. And as you know, and as my followers know and my subscribers, I've been adamant about kind of like putting my position forth in regards to like, this is not okay. And I'm feeling like, I'm watching the Canada that I grew up in. You're 32, I'm 45. That's 13 years. I lived in the 80s. I was 13 years old in 89. I experienced a Canada where it was like, oh, Canada. And people would sing the anthem and it was like The Rock. Can you smell? Like it was that same vibration. People would lose their shit. That commercial, I know you remember this one, I Am Canadian.
I was just thinking about that one.
Man, I remember being in a bar, and every time that commercial would come on, everyone would stop and look and watch that commercial play, and everybody gave it homage to be like, my goodness, I am Canadian. And there was a moment that this country was so, what's the word? Proud. We were proud. We were proud of hockey. We were proud of winter. We were proud of like the community, the diversity this country had. We didn't need to be reminded of how to be diverse 10 years ago. We were diverse. We've always been diverse. We've always been accepting. We were the global peacekeepers.
You know what? I find that obviously the pandemic, there's so many negatives. There are a few positives. You find out like who your real friends are, who's checking in on you.
Yep.
You find that you're able to connect with your household a little bit more because people are home more. It's just been such a strange time, and I feel like nobody really understands the ramifications until it's all over and we look back and go, holy shit. Like I started off the pandemic like in the worst shape of my life because I just sat at home and I would drink beer and order skip the dishes and play video games and watch movies, and I just sat there and did nothing.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Remember when you were a teenager, 14, 15 years old? You're like, yo, if I could do this forever, now you got to do it forever. And you're like, holy shit, this has to end.
Yeah, and I just sat there and I just like fucking ballooned and gained weight.
How much? Because I know you.
Yeah.
We're same height, but you're a lot bigger boned. You're a lot thicker than I am. Not thick, but like you're just a bigger dude. How much do you weigh when you were at your biggest this year?
261. And I'm like 250 right now though.
250.
And then I got down to 220 in the pandemic, and now I'm back up. And now
I remember that you had a bet with Bret the Hitman Hart and his son-in-law about who can be in the best shape possible. And I remember when you guys posted that photo. I don't know, Bret Hart is a champion, an icon for a reason. He shows up in this photo. His hair is all silky and long. He's down 20 pounds. He's got biceps. He looked amazing. So did the brother-in-law, and so did you. You guys look so freaking good in that photo.
I was actually at Bret Hart's house. We were by the fire with me and his brother-in-law, Steve, and we just all were feeling like shit, like just like, oh my God, like we just not paying attention to our weight, not paying attention to anything. Let's just like kick it into gear. So we put a bet on. And we're like, hey, the winner will get a dinner at Caesar's Steakhouse, a very fancy place in town.
Love it.
Paid for by the losers. So we set up a goal of who can lose the most weight in 1 month. And Bret lost 10 pounds, but a man in his 60s, like it's harder to lose a little bit of weight. And he did such a wicked job. Like he looked great.
He did.
Steve lost like 28 pounds.
And Steve's a big guy.
And I lost 27 pounds. So I lost by a pound. So me and Bret ended up losing the bet. And we took everyone to Caesar's Steakhouse. But I feel like that's the kind of shit that I need in my life for motivation. Like, I got a beautiful fiance and she's taking care of herself. I got 2 great kids. I got CJ92. I got the beer. I got like nothing to like motivate myself to like get to the gym, even though I love feeling good.
Why don't you fight again?
Oh, see, that was cool. But
that was so cool. Like, if you guys don't know, 2 years ago, is it 2 years now?
Yeah.
2 years ago, Jesse Modz here fought at the Palace nightclub for what was the event?
It was white collar boxing.
The white collar boxing event, and legit. This man, he's up at 4:30. That's what time, then he goes to CJ. I know this because we're friends. And then from CJ, like whatever time in the mid-afternoon, he would go and train, go pick up his kids. Then he'd go and make supper. Then he would have his moments. And then he would, this guy didn't stop during this thing. And he invited me to be a part of his fight camp, walk him down. And it was one of the coolest moments, man. I'm with Bret Hart, Jesse Modz, myself, Jerry Forbes is there, JD is there. And that photo, I look at that photo and you sent it to me. This guy's pretty sweet. Tough exterior, inside quite a teddy bear. When I was sick in the hospital with diverticulitis, he sent me the photo right before his fight. He had his headgear on, his mouth guard. He just fucking ripped and lean, dropped like whatever, how much weight for that fight. And it was that's one of my favorite photos. And you sent that to me when I was sick, and it was like, thanks, bro. It was very considerate of you to do so.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And, I find like a guy like you, and I haven't known you that long, but like, you always keep yourself in shape. A guy like me, it's like, fuck, I'm like in and out. And I feel so much better when I'm in, but I always need some sort of motivation. Like, that's why actually I was talking with Brett and his son Steve again, like, guys, let's do one of these things again, because when I have something on the line, I'm fucking in. And when I don't, I just enjoy like hanging out. And then I look in the mirror 3 months later and I go, what the hell have I done to myself? And that's where I'm at right now. Like, here's how you can tell if I'm in shape or not. If I'm wearing a t-shirt, I feel good. If I'm sitting here in a sweater, I feel like shit. And right now I'm just like on a 2-week bender of just like, I was down in Toronto last weekend, drinking, eating, whatever I want, not thinking about anything. And now it's time to just flip the script and get back on the other side of this conversation.
It's funny, not only am I jealous of your job on the radio, but now I'm jealous of the fact that your stomach and digestive system can let you eat and drink whatever the fuck you want. I mean, maybe you need a little bout of diverticulitis to slow you down.
Man.
You don't ever want to. Don't ever want to have any kind of illness, brother. But you know what? Ultimately, like, I think we can all relate to what it's like to lose sight of your goal, to be undisciplined, to kind of let one day go, let 2 days go. It's very human to do, especially under the stress that we're under these days with the pandemic and restrictions and now the passports, which, by the way, are easily forged. And, it's on fucking Google. It's not like I'm not making up any conspiracies here, just because my passport says Cougar Steve on it. So it does. And it says Cougar Steve. It's actually this passport that says Cougar Steve. And
does it work?
It works.
Jesus.
I just flash it. It says Cougar Steve. People nod, and I just keep it moving. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Well,
like, how serious? Like, we're implementing this passport. Everyone better do this business. There'll be compliance fines. And I'm walking around going, I'm Cougar Steve. And I've gotten into, like, no one stopped me.
Now, I can't condone the forging of a passport. But what I do hate is that, you've got small businesses that are told that they have to enforce this rule by the government.
Yep.
And it's on them. And, I feel bad for, the 16-year-old hostess at the bar, the 17, 18, 19-year-old hostess at the bar.
Fair.
That has to ask guys like, hey, like, let me see your vaccine,
Fair.
not passport, because they won't call it that, but let me see your immunization record or your negative COVID test. And then you got guys berating these people. Like, they don't want to enforce it. They have to enforce it. Especially like these young girls. Like, I've gone to a couple of restaurants the last couple of days, and it's just like a young chick, and she's just like, hey, can I see this? And like, I hate that people would give that girl a hard time.
That's a lot of responsibility.
She doesn't want to enforce that rule.
She's a teenager.
She's just trying to save money for college, and 100%. You're going to have some assholes walk in. So maybe you're forging your shit. Can't condone that. But just be good to the people that are asking you for it, because they don't want to ask you.
That's why mine says Cougar Steve. Because it's fun. It's fun. I want to give light. I'm not saying I did or did not do this, because I don't know if that's a federal offense, but hypothetically speaking, I don't give a fuck. Like, I never expected that the movie Demolition Man, Total Recall, and The Matrix would be a protein shake that I'm consuming every day. Like, no one could have predicted this. There's no way you sat home 5 years ago and predicted that the world would be in complete shutdown. There'd be passports for your health. Everybody would be chipped up. Our entire lives are based on fucking technology. Now there's cryptocurrency. Venezuela now has adopted cryptocurrency as their main source of currency.
Okay, let me talk to you about crypto for a second.
Oh, here we go.
I have a crazy story. So I'm not in crypto. I actually signed up for an account this week. So one of my best buddies in the world, and he messages me 4 years ago, and he goes, hey man, like, let's get into crypto together. And I was like, I don't know much about it. I got other things I want to do. He goes, trust me, let's just see how it goes. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm just out, because I don't know anything. To this day, I still don't know anything about crypto. So the initial investment that he asked me for, he put in, and we were both going to put in the same thing. He made $500,000 off that initial investment 4 years ago. I'm not done. I went on the weekend to visit my buddy, and he's like, man, you fucked up. And I was like, I already know the 500 grand. He goes, no, look at this. And he pulls up his crypto wallet. In the last 3 months, he made $1 million in 3 months, bought a home with crypto, $1 million home that he just transferred it to a guy who wanted the cryptocurrency. And it's like changed my outlook. Like, I know not every story is a success like that, but he's made over $2 million in 4 years in crypto. Now, I'm not an advertiser for it, because I know nothing about it. This is only one case. We talked about it on the radio actually today, because I was telling the story like, fuck, I think I screwed up not getting involved.
No, I think you did.
And we also have listeners that call in and be like, hey guys, I lost 20 grand. I lost 10 grand. I broke even. I've lost everything. So I don't know if it's like always a win, but man, there's people out there making huge coin. And I got a guy that I've seen make over $2 million in 4 years in crypto.
So the man that made $2 million in 4 years in crypto, that's a lot of money. Bought a home. Has it changed him? Did money change him? Does money change people?
Well, you know what it's like to have no money. I know what it's like to have no money.
You bought me a bed last year. Do I know what it's like not to have money? You bought my son a bed for me. Thank you, CJ.
It's funny because does money change people? No, it gives you a little bit of freedom to do things. Like if you're in the middle of a time in your life where you're hurting for money, and you want to go do something, it sucks to not be able to do those things. But at the end of the day, does money change people? I don't think so. I had a grandfather who did pretty well, and he passed away, and he was the same when he had no money. He was the same when he had money. And I just don't think at the end of the day that money can really change who you are as a person. It can just give you a little bit more freedom to do some fun things,
So if you were able to have the freedom to do more fun things, like let's say today you walk out of the studio, AKA Alavanca Gym, and you're driving home and you have an opportunity to make a change. You have an opportunity to change current state of affairs. You can use your platform to motivate others, to align them into a different kind of way of thinking, maybe a more positive line. If you could change something right now, right, Jesse Modz, what could you change?
I would just like people to see, the positive side of what's going on right now. And I know that's so cliche to say.
No, man.
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn right now, but JD and I, we receive a lot of abuse being public figures just because that's how people are, right? So, you go on the radio, we have a text line, people have access to us. We have Facebook, social media, Instagram, the whole deal. And people can message us whenever they want, and we see these messages. And we don't do a break without somebody saying some sort of shit to us. And it can affect people differently, right?
What kind of things do they say to you?
Oh man, if you talk about anything, I could talk about, how much let's say I said I love dogs. They'd be like, well, what about cats? You're an asshole. You hate cats. If you talk about a vaccine, you talk about COVID, you talk about family. No matter what it is you talk about, you're going to get people there that hate it. And,
do you find they're looking for that? Do you find that these people that are targeting, do you find that they're just waiting on every word you and JD say so they can be offended?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just us, it's anybody, no matter where you are. But we had this little bout last week where we just had this non-stop bullshit for no reason. And I just said to JD, I was like, look, man, you're going home to a beautiful girlfriend. You're going home to friends that love you. You're going home to family that calls you. I walk in my door after the show, and I got 2 kids that run and hug me. I got my beautiful fiance hanging out. I got buddies that I can call. I'm like, I can't let some idiot who's taking things, too personal, too literal, whatever it might be, affect my day. And I just always try to look at the positive shit. So, okay, yeah, this guy's saying all this shit, and you look at it and you're like, oh, fuck, that sucks to see. But at the end of the day, who the fuck is this guy? How could I let this guy affect my life? So in terms of COVID, in terms of the pandemic, right now, I'm just you know what? Shit sucks. I can still go to the restaurant. I still got food in my fridge. I can, my kids are still got smiles.
Got a home, you got a roof over your head, you got food in the fridge, you got a nice bar downstairs, you just started now you're an owner of a beer. I
don't want to get too political and shit like that, but
you could. If you,
no.
I'm come on.
But, when I see what's going on in Afghanistan right now.
Sure.
I look at myself and I'm like, fuck, I'm pissed off about having to show my immunization record at a restaurant. We got people across the world being beheaded, running for their lives, getting massacred in the middle of the night.
100%.
And I'm upset that I can't freely go to a restaurant. At the end of the day, I just look at it, whereas it's shit right now, but it could be way worse.
100%. I concur. And in fact, on that note, as you know, if you're a subscriber and a follower, I've changed a lot of my perspective in regards to content. The first 18 months, almost 2 years of this, I have been incessant in regards to posting really not controversial, but my opinion and how I feel about the shutdowns and the forced restrictions and how it's changed the dynamics of our country. And I've seen what it's done to people.
Yeah.
So I'm not blatant with conspiracy. I don't do conspiracy. Most of my content, my satire come directly from CTV, CNN. It's a news article, it's a header, and I pull it onto my story and I put my header on their header. And it's taken off. People love to see the shit that I disturb in my stories. And then eventually, over the 18 months, I've become some sort of non-self-proclaimed expert in this pandemic and how to avoid like having to get the vax and how to like navigate the restrictions with masks. I'm like the non-mask guy, right? As you know, I haven't worn a mask in 2 years. And I just want to say thank you to the businesses and to the people in those businesses that have been unreal cool about not hassling me for it, because I know I'm less than maybe 3% of the city that have just said, fuck it, fuck the bylaw, fuck all these restrictions. I'm not wearing my mask. But when I did wear a mask, I wore around people that had compromised immune systems. I wore it around the elderly. When I was asked to wear it, like that, I didn't create conflict. And I realized that in my content, I was creating conflict. I was losing followers and gaining followers, but the followers I was gaining were extreme. They were ready for like some sort of civil war to break out. And I'm just like, whoa, man, I'm just looking to kind of like get the news out there, kind of keep people awake, be mindful of the choices that are being made for us. And let's navigate this in a way where, like, you know, be strong, be proud to be Canadian, appreciate your freedom. And now I've changed my stance. I've decided that posting the content which just initiates more fear, initiates more resentment towards those that complied and, you know, are now under the same restrictions. They did everything they were supposed to do, and those who didn't are in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. So the narrative for my life and the scope has changed to like fight the power to be, there's got to be a solution. We need to unify. We need to align ourselves. We need to support those that are here now. We'll focus just on our city, Calgary, small business, those that are, you know, their livelihood is based upon our support and our residual incomes. And that residual income and that support can't come if we're so burdened with anger and division. And that's what I think is ultimately happening, is a division, when realistically, vaxxed or non, we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. And I think that the key right now, I don't know if you agree with me as a public figure, but I personally believe that the key right now is unity and alignment, and to believe that there's a positive outcome to this. Because the moment you allow this conditioning to consume you, you're down a rabbit hole. And I'm sure in the last 2 years, you went down that rabbit hole in your Google and pulling up articles and look at this and this is this. And what do you think?
Well, I couldn't say I agree with everything you say all the time, because you
can't.
are a bit of a fucking nut job sometimes. But what I will say is, you're right. We all need to come together. And what I just hate about COVID is like, it's like literally separated people. Like, are you vaxxed? Well, then screw you. Oh, I'm not vaxxed. Oh, I'm not vaxxed. So, you know, I just hate that part of it. I hate the people that give other people a hard time that aren't enforcing anything because they want to. Talking about small business, like, I wear a mask not because I want to wear the mask. I wear a mask because, like, I don't want to like put the 30-year-old guy stocking shelves at the superstore out by having to come up to me and be like, hey man, wear your mask. I'm like, you know what? You don't want me to wear a mask in your own personal life. This is your job. I don't want to wear the mask, but I have to. And I get that that's also a different way of thinking. And to me, I'm just like, I just want this fucking over with, you know? Like everybody else, I don't want to fight with anybody. If you're not vaxxed, I don't care.
Me neither.
You know, I am vaxxed, and I got vaxxed just because I just want to fucking move on.
This interview's over.
No.
This interview is over. Now my can's dented.
Yeah, I just want to move on, man. And like, for me, it's just like, let's just get out of this as fast as we can. I really do. Like, the only thing I will say is I feel like nobody knows what's going on. I feel like nobody has like a grip on this situation.
100% they don't.
You know, with our government saying August 16th, like, oh, like all the restrictions are done. COVID is just like the flu. We're banning everything. And then like, as it got close to August 16th, like, whoa. Now we don't know. And now we're right back to like basically a lockdown again. I feel like it's like trial and error. And it sucks that we're like the guinea pigs for this trial and error. But at the end of the day, you know, you've got this pandemic that is happening. People are getting sick. I'm sure you can agree with that.
I saw it with my own eyes. I'm not going to lie. I've mentioned it before on the show. I got sick with my illness. I was hospitalized. When I came out of the hospital, I noticed I had some weird side effects, which I thought were part of my illness. But when I started to have high fevers for 3-4 days in a row, and I started to have a weird kind of cough, and I noticed my son wasn't well, and my partner who I live with, she kind of wasn't well. One of us tested positive for COVID. The person that was utilizing their phone more wasn't me. They used their phone continually the whole time they were ill. I noticed their symptoms didn't didn't go away. They persisted. Whereas 2 other people in the household did not use their phones during that time because we didn't have our phones, like you and your golf cart. I fucked my phone up too. We had no phone, which means no 5G. I noticed that 2 out of 3 people in our household recovered within 3 to 4 days. One of us, maybe me, the quasi chef, lost his sense of smell and taste. And since that time, I've learned to change my perspective in regards to what this illness is and what this pandemic is. I've gained some empathy for those that may be subjected to it. So when that happened...
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I don't want to start a fight here.
No.
Are you saying that cell phones are causing COVID?
Not causing. Definitely not causing, but I feel that, it's funny how the 5G towers went up at the same time COVID happened, and in that time...
Chris, you can't be subscribing to the 5G theory.
I'm not subscribing to the 5G theory, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, a month ago, I witnessed a family member that utilized their 5G consistently the entire time they were bedridden with the illness, and they didn't recover, whereas 2 other people in the household did not use their cell phones and recovered very quickly. So I'm just saying, potentially, maybe the radiation or the frequencies potentially prolong the illness.
When you air this portion of the podcast, can you just blur my face? I don't want to sit next to a guy who's telling people that 5G is creating COVID-19. But anyways, I don't know. I told you before we talked about this, I didn't want to get into this, but it is funny to talk about. But I just feel like people just go down these rabbit holes with COVID, man. They go down the rabbit holes with vaccines. You can go on the internet and you could read anything about anything. You could read positives to COVID, negatives to COVID,
100%.
Positives vaccine, negative vaccine. At the end of the day, man, I just hope that together, everybody, pro-vax, not whatever, could just come together and we just get through this shit and we look back and go, do you remember COVID-19? You remember 2020? You remember 2021? And we're all at a festival all together having fun again.
And that's why this man's got a professional job in broadcasting, and I'm just this rebel in a fucking jiu-jitsu studio talking about 5G increasing the fucking frequencies of causing prolonged COVID symptoms. This is what separates me from the professionals. And on that note, brother,
thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on the show. Jesse Modz from CJ92, now one of the proud owners of Toolshed Brewery that's located here in Calgary, a local product, a local brand. And this man right here is really, truly one of the best broadcasters and radio hosts that I've heard. And he works with JD, and JD and him have such a great show on CJ92. 15 years I've been banging that show out every day to the job I don't have, and I love being up in the morning because you know what? I truly listen to you guys on a consecutive basis, and so does most of Calgary. Thank you for what you do for us.
And remember to blur my face during that 5G rant.
Something will get blurred.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, bro.
That's a wrap.
Man, that was a crazy show. Jesse Modz did an amazing job at navigating my crazy. And I did realize I didn't take my meds today. I didn't take my Adderall. So today's show, I'm loose and I can feel it. I also had a beer. It's the first time I had a beer in over 4 months. Again, no sugar, no flour, no dairy. My whole life is based on health and fitness and spirituality. And of course, again, reiterating, my whole philosophy moving forward is finding the solution and not motivating the problem. So with that being said, today it was nice to hear a perspective from a professional broadcaster, someone that has built their brand, built their image, and have sway with the public. They resonate with their followers. And it was nice to hear Jesse Modz talk about his views and his experiences dealing with the pandemic. And I'm proud. I'm proud to be his friend, and I'm proud to stand by him. I love CJ. And you know what? It's weird because I'm praising Jesse when ultimately, like, JD is a big part of that show too. So shout out to JD. Now, next week, we have an incredible show lined up for you. I always get in shit because I always queue up the next show, and sometimes it doesn't always happen. But if this guest comes through and we have her, I have a very inspirational story about a woman that survived stage 4 cancer. She's an empowerment of most women, and she's changing people's lives on a regular basis. She's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I'm very confident we'll have her next week. And if we don't, most likely it'll be a solo cast with me on mushrooms screaming my head off in a jiu-jitsu studio at 45 years old. Take your pick. With that, thank you so much for your support. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment on these videos so we can continue to give you some of the best content we can here in Canada. And as well-recognized, nationally celebrated comedian Brett Forte said, this is a great podcast. Give it your all. Keep pushing. Because you know what? You got a product. And for that fucking weasel to say that, I got to believe that we got something. So on that, thank you all for tuning in. And I'm back up to 175 fucking pounds since I had my hospitalization. So I'm bigger, stronger, and happier than ever. End of the day, let's find a solution. Let's build our community and let's empower others. That's the key to success moving forward in 2022. I'm Kris LaBelle. Thank you so much for tuning in.